Well, hello and welcome to Hey Boomer. My name is Wendy Green and I am your host for Hey Boomer. And at Hey Boomer, we are changing the conversation about retirement. Rather than seeing it as an ending, we see it as the opening of an exciting new and vibrant chapter, a time for exploration, self-expression, and fulfillment. Every once in a while, you meet someone and you think, when I grow up, I want to be like her. Not that I have that far to go to be like Donna Friess as far as age, but she is just such a person that you would want to model your life after. She has the most beautiful outlook on life. Donna chooses to focus on the beauty that is around her. She chooses to focus on being grateful for the people and the opportunities in her life. I doubt that she tells herself that she cannot dream another dream or set another goal. She continues to dream and find new ways to express herself. I have said many times on this show that we are never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream. But I have to admit that there are times it does seem more difficult, like turning 70 this past summer. It was a wonderful thing, and I celebrated with so many wonderful friends. And yet I'm aware of the aches and pains that I'm experiencing and that they're not resolving as quickly as they once did. Does that mean I will stop dreaming? Does it mean that I will let this put a negative outlook on my life? Oh, heck no. But it does mean that there are times I might modify my dreams to fit my reality a little bit. I'm going to be curious to learn how Donna experiences aging and dreaming. And I know that we are all going to be inspired by her today. But before I bring her on, I want to talk about Rhodes Scholar, the not-for-profit leader in educational travel for boomers and beyond. You know, I have taken 4 trips with them, and I have another trip coming up in July. We're going to Quebec. Rhodes Scholar handles all the details, makes it super easy to just show up. And I have made new friends on my travels. I know that sometimes we think that group travel is not our cup of tea, but I am here to tell you to get over that idea. Traveling with Rhodes Scholar has been some of the best travel experiences that I have had. Check out all that they have to offer at rhodescholar.org/heyboomer and look at all of the trips and all of the opportunities. It's road, ROAD, scholar.org/heyboomer. All right, you ready to meet Donna? Hello, Donna.
Hello. Well, let me just follow up. I travel about 3 big trips a year in a group, and it's so fun. I'm going to go with you on Rhodes Scholar.
Oh, yes, come
Maybe
with us.
Summer, I'm going to Africa, but maybe next summer.
Wow. Yes. Oh,
Okay,
Africa
that's
sounds
the end
fun.
of my commercial.
Okay. All right. Well, let me do a brief intro of your background. So Dr. Donna Friess is an author, a professor emeritus, and a certified docent at Mission San Juan Capistrano. She is a trained oral historian and a nationally recognized social advocate for women and children. In 2009, Donna was selected as Orange County Teacher of the Year by Cypress College. She's authored 10 books, including her autobiography, Cry the Darkness, which was published in 7 languages and which landed her on the Oprah Winfrey Show, as well as a psychological novel, The Unraveling of Shelby Forest, published in 2014. And like Donna she's working on another book now. Since her retirement in 2010, she says she feels like a kid in a candy store, as there are so many wonderful and intriguing activities available. For the first 9 years, Donna volunteered once a week for 2 hours as a grief counselor through the city of San Juan Capistrano. But right now, retirement finds her walking her dogs, riding her 3/4 horses, writing her books, and painting portraits of her grandchildren and her friends' grandchildren. Donna cannot believe she was ever so terrified about life after retirement.
I was.
Well, we're going to hear about that, but first tell me a little bit about your teaching career, what you liked about it, and what you taught, those kinds of things.
Oh gosh, we won't spend the whole show on that, Wendy, but if there was anyone ever cut out to teach college students the art of communication, a lot of public speaking, a lot of psychology of relationships, a lot of intercultural communication, it was Donna Friess. I loved it. And I just happened to hire on at a college that it was its first year. So I got to be a founding faculty member of a brand new community college. We grew to 17,000 students. I think since COVID, we're at about 15,000 students. Beautiful, big, gorgeous new facility when I started, and my classes were filled in those days with Vietnam vets. And they would be injured. We were the only community college in our county, which, because it was new, was handicap had handicap capability. So veterans would be rolled into my classroom on gurneys with IVs. Their wives, they roll in wheelchairs. It was a very powerful thing to help them to become educated so they could take care of their families. Eventually, that era passed. And so for 45 years, I continued on, thrilled. But around 42 years, I thought, I have full retirement. It's time to go, Donna. And so I said to my husband, I think I could be brave enough to go. I was terrified because what seriously could be more fun than teaching community? Nothing. I mean, there's nothing more fun than that, right? So I told my husband, I'm going to do it. And this was summertime. And so that decision was made. And we were on a family vacation at Avalon, an island off of Southern California. And I had swum out to the float in the harbor. I was fine, swimming along, climbed up on the float. And I stood there, I'm ready to do my big dive. And I looked down at the little 6 or 7-year-old little blonde boy next to me. And he climbed up and he was getting ready. He too was going to dive in, but it was a really big deal for him. He was so terrified. It was a really big deal. And I burst into tears.
Oh,
I burst into tears. I'm on a float. I'm on a family vacation. And now I'm sobbing. So the little boy made his dive.
And wanted to get away from this sobbing woman.
Well, I don't think he could tell. I was more subtle than that. And I got on the ocean, went up to the room to my husband, who was reading his novel, and said, Ken, I can't retire. I can't retire. And he's like, what's wrong with you? And I said, I can't leave him, because that little boy reminded me how terrified my college students were. Fast forward 10 or 11 years when he was 18 or 20. And I just felt I couldn't leave him. I could see how vulnerable he was. And so then I taught for a few more years. So then when I finally decided, all right, I'm really brave enough now, then my colleagues got me over like in the corner of the piazza. Do you have cancer, Donna? Are you terminally ill? Because you would never retire. No, I don't have cancer. I'm fine. I got brave enough to retire. That was my story, Wendy. I got brave enough.
Wow.
I'm your number one terrified guest of it. But I've got
terrified.
Yes.
So you were not necessarily terrified about what retirement meant. It was more terrified about leaving your students. And what would they do?
Well, but that would be retirement. I would not have those beautiful faces in front of me every day. My vision in my mind was that I'd be sitting here at this computer in the fall, all by myself, writing books and writing poetry, or I'd be painting all by myself, that I just cocoon myself. I'm very good at playing alone. That's what I was afraid of. And somewhere in there, I thought, well, maybe I'll just go an even 50 years. That's a nice number. God will love me even more if I teach 50. No, Donna, come on. So that's what I thought. I thought I would isolate, but it turns out I have not isolated.
Well, yes, that is definitely for sure. And so we talked about this before we came on the air. So did you have a plan for what you were going to do so you didn't isolate?
I did have a plan, and it was kind of fun. I have just a wonderful husband, and he and I like to take long hikes and walks. So we both have a degree, doctoral degree in psychology. So he's a good one to talk to. And of course, he shared he understood. I just loved the life that I had. And so we would walk along, and after we flushed out, after really a lot, this is pre-retirement, we flushed out a plan. And the plan was that I would become a life coach using my doctoral degree in psychology. And we came up with the name Your Time Now. And I'm all about, this is our time now. And so I bought the rights to the website, and I began life coaching, and then I was invited to be the Reinvent Yourself life coach for Women's Stage. That gave me I started having a body of people. And so then I started writing an inspirational post for them, and it grew. And that was wonderfully satisfying. But that wasn't the only thing I did. That coaching, the very first January, I retired December 10th of 2010. The very first thing I was invited to be a speaker at, essentially Renew Yourself. It was January, for a community center with a big, nice big audience. And that was lovely. Be all you can be, the stuff I talk about. And then 3 women helped me carry my many visual aids out to the car. And so as we walked to the car and we lingered at the car, they were all recent widows. And they were struggling terribly with this change in their life. And so I talked about them, but I always commuted 70 miles, 35 miles each way. So I knew I couldn't just keep up this commute. But it came to me driving home. How about if I offered a loss of a loved one as a volunteer, free through the city? My husband had been involved in city politics. He knew just who to contact. I contacted him, and by a month later, I was up and running. I had a place to meet. I had the city provided insurance, so I wasn't at risk. And so then for 9 years, I offered that, and it was a very powerful way to give back to the community and keep myself doing something which felt really important to me.
You know what it sounds like to me is like you and your husband talked and you fleshed out a plan, like I'm going to be a life coach and
We did the plan.
about reinvention, but you also were so aware of other possibilities, which is how you were able to transition into, now I'm going to coach people that are dealing with loss. And
Yes.
It's like one door opens and you saw it.
It did.
Yeah.
But that was a few hours a week. I still had plenty of time. Before I ever retired, I'd be walking down the trail with my 3 dogs. And I will tell you, I had a fantasy. What if I could keep walking? What would happen if I didn't need to get on the freeway and go to school? What would happen? Well, so I retired. And you want to know what happened?
What happened?
I kept walking. So my husband's a marathoner. My grandkids are marathoners. And 5 of them were at a marathon and a half marathon this weekend back at Catalina. And so they inspired me, and then I started doing half marathons. But you were talking.
At what age did you start doing a half
marathon?
Well,
I retired at 68, so I'd say by around 72, I was doing half marathons on my prosthetic hip, mind you.
Oh my goodness.
I really appreciated what you said earlier about aware of aches and pains and making adjustments. So, Wendy, I didn't do a full marathon. I made adjustments. And right now, at age 80, I'm really wanting to do a half marathon, but I have my left knee is a little sensitive. I had to quickly get off an elephant in India. We were in the river and she was blowing water at me. And then she started to roll over. And whoa, I've had my leg crushed here if I don't quickly get into the river. But then my sandals stuck to the mud in the bottom of the river, and I had to really twist to get that leg off. So I have a sensitive knee. So I am not doing half marathons now. I just want you to know I want to, but I'm not. But I did a 5K in the last year and a half. So that's fun. So
and that's fabulous. That's fabulous. And you know, I have a question about your trip to Nepal and the elephants and all, because I was reading that in your blog. So would you go into a little more detail about that trip?
Well, so let me back up a little bit. So I did sit in the classroom for 45 years. And in my public speaking classes, they got to speak. And we had a map the size of the wall of the world. And I will confess, there might have been a moment here and there during the 45 years when I looked at that map and I imagined going to all those places.
Yeah.
And so I have gone to all those places. And
Wow.
so the minute I retired, then I had more invitations to go more places. And so that trip, I went with my son-in-law's mom, and we hiked the Himalaya with the Sierra Club. So we hiked 10 miles a day, and we stayed in barracks from World War II. And then part of it was a 3-night river rafting trip when we stayed in tents. And then eventually we had an experience where we had a safari on an elephant. And then the guide said, well, do you want to bathe the elephants? And do you want the elephants to bathe you? I had no idea what any of that meant. But sure, I'll do that. Whatever it is, I don't know what you're talking about. I'll do it. So I was the first one in our group. I always travel in a group. I feel safer, and it's easy for me. And so I got on there, and there were like 9 other travelers, and they're all taking pictures, and she's blowing at me, and it's just, it was wonderful. But then, as I said, she started rolling. So, but then the part came. So then the others got on, and they were splashed. And so then the guide said, well, do you want to wash them? I still didn't know what that meant. So by now the elephants there were 3 or 4 of them all on their side. They were big, 5,000 pound elephants with pink spotted ears. Beautiful. So I'm next to her, and I'm rubbing. I'm on her back first, and then I'm brave enough to get a little bit closer, and now I'm up by her ear, and she's just, there was only just one big eye there, and I could tell she loved it, and she had these beautiful eyelashes. And I confess, I just got into a zone, such a zone, and I just, oh my goodness, the enormity of her, and I'm in this river in Nepal, and this elephant's letting me bathe her. I'd never been that close to an elephant. Certainly not the eye.
Right? Oh my gosh.
So
oh my gosh.
We're all going. Donna, do you want to come? Or do you want to stay? And I said, can I? And he laughed and let me stay. And they all left. And
that was brave, Donna.
Well, I didn't feel brave. I was in a zone, but then I got lost coming back. I didn't know. And some late native ladies were they were picking the crops, and they laughed at me, and they kind of put their arms around me, and they just thought I was pretty funny and turned me around and put me on the right path. But they were so kind to me. You know, they understood, and they could see that I was like, oh man, she really got a kick out of those elephants.
Yeah. So what a great takeaway, though, to have that kind of intimate experience, you know, with another living creature, and then to have, right? Yeah. And then to have these kind women who you didn't even speak their language, and they were able to,
yeah. And I didn't realize I tweaked in my knee until the next morning, and then like, whoa.
Wow.
So then my tour people took my suitcase and helped me. And You
Oh,
know, it
that was
wasn't
good.
broken, but we did go to surgery and tie it or sew up the meniscus. There was some of that going on later when I got home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, let's see. There's a couple of other just things that I wanted to talk to you about. One is that little apple tree that you mentioned that you
Oh my
have developed another relationship with another living thing.
I want to show this. So, can I tell about the flood?
Yes, please.
So, I'm in Southern California, Orange County, and we don't have hurricanes, but a hurricane was coming up from Baja, and we were warned extensively on the news. And by the time it got here to Southern California, it was a tropical storm. We're still warned all over the news. And I have a house in the mountains. There are 12 homes on a large river. It's the Santa Ana River on the headwaters of it. Well, let me tell you, they did say evacuate, but that storm got stuck between two mountains and rained at least 5 inches in an hour down on the headwaters of the Santa Ana River, where our houses are. And the next day, it was all over the news. The pictures, my friend's house was terribly hurt, and it's in the river, and 5 houses above us and a resort above us washed away. A lady washed away with her house, never got
Oh,
down
gosh.
with her cat. I mean, just heartbreaking devastation.
Yeah.
And we were without power there for 25 days. I was there this weekend, and the helicopters for the electric company whirled in the air, bringing us in poles and huge bags of gravel. They're poling, they're redoing our whole river valley. The resort above us, where 32 or 34 people live, it still is without power. This event was August 20th, and here we
Wow.
are clear into November. Anyway, so it was the roads were wiped out. So it was a while later, 11 days before we could even access and hike in. So my daughter and my son-in-law and I hiked in. My husband and other grown, of course they're grown. They're really grown, like my middle-aged children. My son, Dan, and my husband had hiked in the week before, and they knew I was safe enough. I did use big hiking poles to cross the river. I mean, the only way to get across the river was there wasn't bridges, everything.
Gone.
It was a catastrophe, wiped out. And so on that day, I hiked up the hill and across the river from where our cabins are. And do you know, I encountered a fruit-bearing apple tree, and I realized that apple tree was planted about 1915. And what happened to that tree is there was another significant flood in 1938. It was the worst flood of the century, of the 20th century for Orange County, and it was certainly bad for our mountain community. And this tree was planted in our caretaker's yard. The caretaker had lived in a stone cottage, and that river came so violently it wiped out the entire bank, and the caretaker's stone cottage in 1938 fell into the river. And later, the caretaker's wife's piano keys were found on a tree way downriver.
Oh my gosh.
All that was left was this apple tree, and it was bearing fruit. So it hadn't been tended in 85 years, and it was bearing this beautiful fruit. And my daughter and son-in-law moved down, and I stayed with the tree, and didn't exactly talk to it. What sure I did. I told her, I can't believe you're still bearing fruit after all these years. So you were planted like 107 years ago. And since 1938, no one's even known really that you were here. And so then I did the history of the club from the point of view of the apple tree. And this last weekend, we went up to put the sign circa 1915, the forgotten apple tree. And that beautiful tree is no longer forgotten.
That's so nice.
a little thing, but it was it was very fun for me to write about it. This was the devastation from the 1938 flood, that house. And my best friend and college roommate lives in that house now, but it's down farther, and a whole lot of the bank went away. It was not a good thing, but a good thing came out of it. That apple tree now knows that he's for it. I don't know if it's a he or a she. We have not had a gender discussion.
Right. But what these stories show is how you are living with such gratitude for the elephant, gratitude for the apple tree, gratitude for your family. Can you talk to me a little bit more about living in gratitude?
Well, I've lately been talking a lot about my gratitude lens. I was invited to speak at my grandson's wedding at the rehearsal dinner 2 weeks ago. And my gratitude glass vision came out. And I'd also said, it's no way to start a marriage using rose-colored glasses. It's no way to start retirement using rose-colored glasses. We absolutely have to have a plan. And I think a plan for living life, whether it's a new marriage or it is retirement, I just love that I'm alive. And so when people are so, I don't know, so maybe ungrateful for the fact that they got to be alive in the first place. And I used to share with my students, and I won't get graphic about it, but the little tiny chance of going up and begging this and then growing up and getting, I mean, really, we had like 1 in 10 million chance to get here. And my students would always laugh at me. And
Right.
Not too graphic. Oh, but I mean, when you think the phenomenal gift to be alive in the world, and those of us with our health, when I was coaching the Reinvent Yourself, it was during one of these depressions. Remember in 2018 to 2011, there were a lot of businesses went out. I think around 2011, that a lot of workers, and where I live, a lot of people lost their jobs. And so the Reinvent Yourself ladies would come jobless and not in very good shape. And they'd sit around the table in the beginning, and I'd open with, can any of you drive? Well, yeah, they could all drive. Can you see? Well, these people all could see. Do you have your health? Most of the hands went up. And then by the end of that 2 hours, they were so, really, I can drive and I can see, and my health is good. I'm alive in the world. And I let them, I had a little activity. What is right with you? I asked, what is right with you? Well, that threw them for a loop. What's right? Oh my God, everybody wants to know what's wrong with me, or I focus on what's wrong with me. And that question is really, it's like a trick question to people. What is right with you? And then they had to talk to a partner for a minute about what was right and then share it. And there was so much right, but it was, again, about focusing, being grateful for what you have. I'm at an age, Wendy, I don't know how long the state of California will let me drive. Right now, they'll let me drive until 2028, but how about after that? I don't know. So I'm grateful I could drive and I can see. Can I tell you one other story?
Yes, please.
So I'm backing up to December and I'm very involved with my dogs and my dog community, golden retriever community. And one of my dearest, most best friends unexpectedly passed away in December 17th. It was terrible. And I was broken from it. And the month before, my husband had he'd been after me to get a Corvette. Now, don't get too excited. This was an 8-year-old Corvette, very shiny and red and very lovely. And I had been saying, no, I'm too old for a Corvette. And then finally, for the 80th birthday, he said, no, you need this. So I had this Corvette November 8th last year. And I parked it at Ron's over by the trash can so no one would scratch it. I was loading my groceries in. This man rolls by and, what year is your Corvette? 2014. Oh, how many horsepower? 455. Well, how many miles on it? 15,000, 14,800. You should come to our Corvette club. I'd had lots of Corvettes when I was young. And considering that I was so hurt, I'm still hurt from losing my friend. He said the first meeting is like the 4th of January at so-and-so place and such. And I came home and I said, my husband can't invite me to Corvette Club. I haven't been invited to Corvette Club in my life. He said, you should. He is not a car guy. You should go. And so this comes under the heading of get out of your own way, move out of your comfort zone. And my comfort zone would not be to go to a restaurant full of, turned out there were about 75 people there, men and women. I knew not one soul.
I bet.
One soul. But I had filled out my application. I did what I was told. And so a very nice man called and left a message on my phone, a very nice man named Bob with a lovely voice. And so I knew to walk in, my heart was pounding, into this big room, restaurant, dark, more kind of a nightclub, and aim for this man with a nice voice who was nice and welcoming. And then he had a wife there who just opened her arms to me. And considering how hard it was having lost a friend in less than a month, and here are these people offering love, really, and friendship. And so they had a seat for me and they welcomed me. And obviously I calmed down, and I had to earn 12 points by doing all these different activities. And I had them within 2 months, and I joined, and I am having the most fun with the Corvette Club. So I saw so many people that were just so wonderful.
What I'm hearing, Donna, is a superpower that you have of, oh my gosh, this sounds scary.
So scary.
I am going to get out of my own way, get pushed through my comfort zone. This is a superpower that you have.
Oh, but it was so scary, Wendy.
I know. So
heart was pounding. I knew I was alive. My heart was pounding.
I know, but so many people in our generation, Donna, they say, well, I'm too old. I can't do this. What if I don't know anybody? What if I make a fool of myself? Da, 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 da. How would you advise them? How do you get through that fear and face it with your bravery?
Well, so the man who invited me said, hey, we're meeting at the outlets with toys for the Marine kids. Swing by there. We meet at 7:15 at Carl's Jr. Well, I rolled into Carl's Jr. about 7:16. I didn't want to be the first one, and they rolled out about 45 Corvettes. So I went in to order coffee or something. I thought maybe they hadn't come yet. And the man, a little older man behind at Carl's Jr. said, they left. Well, how do you know? Well, he saw me. We don't get roll in. He saw me. And I said, are there any women? He said, yeah. And then I said, am I too old? He laughed. He said, oh, no, you're not too old. And so I knew where they were going. So I took my little cup of coffee with a lid, got in my car, and I went down there and I found them, and they moved all the cones and all so that I could display my car with their 45 or so Corvettes. And so I had an inkling of what they were like. But I did ask, am I too old? Am I too female? I mean, will I fit in? And
well, sure.
I was scared that day too.
But, I think that's not uncommon. But what's uncommon is then you still went. That's what's uncommon.
I'm an officer now.
You're
So
an officer?
yes, the meeting, I haven't even had a year anniversary. No, all this, I only got the card last November. So they asked who will volunteer for these jobs. And so I volunteered. Sure, I'll be the historian. No one was running against me. So the meeting last week, I went around to all the tables, man, trying to solicit your vote. Well, of course, no one was voting against me, but it gave me an excuse to go around. I mean, I still don't know the 75 people. Of
A lot of
course,
people.
and the men have baseball hats on and a lot of gray beards. I don't know all their names.
Right.
And so I went from table to table trying to get them to vote for me. So that gave me a chance to get a little bit more acquainted. And I unanimously won my office.
And so what is your role as an officer now?
I get to take pictures at events and post them on Facebook. We love Facebook. Yes, we do.
That's fabulous. So you heard me mention in the beginning, and you alluded to it, that, turning 70 was like big milestone and some of the aches and pains and whatever. And you turned 80 this year, right?
I did.
And so how do you make peace with that? With like, I still want to do all these things, but I can't do everything.
No, you can't do everything. And I let myself rest in the afternoon. I hiked a lot this weekend in the mountains with the dogs. I could let them off leash. No one was around. But then when this knee would start to talk to me, I would rest. Of course, the dogs loved it. And we'd sit in the shade high on a mountain. They'd all cluster around me. And I just make adjustments for that. I can't do everything, and I have to respect my health. So I rest. But the minute we get off this conversation, I am going to write more in my flood book, because I'm very excited to write on my flood book. And I want to finish my flood project because I have a painting project I want to do. So I'm, meting out what I can do one project at a time.
So going back to your plan was to coach. Did you think in part of your plan would be to write and to paint also? Or is that just kind of...
I was a 25-hour-a-week painter since my kids were little. I always painted, and I'd written 2 books before I retired. I had no idea that I'd be writing more. So can I say about being a docent? How much time do we have?
Yeah, no, we still have some time.
We do. I'm so excited talking to all of you. So about 7 years, around December of 2016, we have a beautiful Mission San Juan Capistrano here. It's historic. It was built in 1776. It was a big sign on the wall. Sign up to be a docent. I did not know what that meant. I called. Does that mean 20 hours a week? I don't want to get back working as hard as I did when I worked. And I ran up by my husband. He said, you don't want to do that. You'll have to repeat yourself. Oh, yeah. Because I take school children around and travelers, guests around, and teach them about the mission. And I thought about it for about 24 hours. And I thought, wait a minute. I just taught for 45 years. I have been repeating myself my whole entire life. I am good at repeating myself. So I made arrangements to be trained, and so the training didn't stop there. I became very inspired by California history. I mean, absolutely, completely mesmerized by it. And so the more books I read, the more I wanted to write something about California history. But the writers for our mission town, they've been writing a lot of things. Well, I didn't want to just say what they'd said. What is that? And so I was driving, and we live in one of the last equestrian cities. Maybe there are 1 or 2 other areas in Orange County where horses are allowed, but it's been a very big part. We have a big non-motorized horse parade every year. And I mean, we're all about the horses. So I was driving home, and I had to stop as some horses crossed the road. And then I came to the 3 stables that are across the street from my house. And, I'm starting to think, horses. Nobody's been riding writing. We've been writing, but not
Right.
writing about our horses. So that was the bomb, the trigger that got me started. And so I spent 2018 researching and writing a history of San Juan Capistrano, Orange County, the settling of California from the point of view of our equestrian life. And
Ah,
this thing, the Spaniards brought us horses. We had horses 50 million years ago. They found a horse fossil, 190,000-year-old fossil here where I live. Well, how much fun was all that to write about? So then our horse community invited me to talk to them, and they were fine about me writing about them. And I don't have a copy of it here, but I wrote Capistrano Trails, and it's the history of the mission as the explorers came Portola with his 2-mile long mule train with cows and horses, and the settling of California through the missions with the horses, and up to current day with our equestrian community. Well, that was fun. That was fun. So I think one thing has led to another thing. And then we had COVID, and then we got shut down in March, right?
right.
So I kept a little busy in March. We weren't allowed to go to the beach. It said go home in huge neon letters.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
And so I woke up one morning and I thought, wait a minute, I do have this book here. I grew up next to a working oil well. This is me over here. It's the opposite. This little girl is me in front of the oil, posing in front of the oil well. So in the 1940s, when I was a little girl on the beach in Venice, Venice, California, the second biggest attraction next to Disneyland in Southern California, there was a working oil well. Pumped night and day. It pumped it, to kind of lull you to sleep, the working oil well.
Mm-hmm.
So I woke up one morning going, that's a piece of Los Angeles history that's been lost forever. People don't know it was the third biggest productive oil field in California. I mean, we really had oil wells. And in fact, it was so toxic at one point that the elementary school, which I ended up attending a few years earlier, it was shut down because it was so toxic. And it was everybody wanted the oil rights because they were going to make millions of dollars of the liquid gold underneath of the wells. So they even wanted to put wells on the sand. But there was a movie star named Stone, and he said, no, we cannot be putting oil wells on the sand.
Yeah.
So he managed to stop that.
So
it's a wonderful thing to keep me out of trouble.
Yeah. And so what I love about this conversation, Donna, is certainly your enthusiasm, but your sense of curiosity, your sense of bravery, your sense of gratitude, all of that comes through. And I think those are really important takeaways for people listening, that,
to get out of our comfort zone.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Who am I to write about Venice? Oh, wait a minute. I grew up there.
But
Hopalong Cassidy was there.
Yeah. And Donna has a beautiful website with wonderful, wonderful articles on it. You can find her at Donna Friess, drdonnafriess.com. So go look at some of her articles. You'll be inspired by all of them, I'm sure. And certainly check out our sponsor, roadscholar.org/heyboomer. Use the /heyboomer so they know you heard about their trips from us. And I want to tell you about who is coming up next week. So next week, I'm speaking to Michela Di Carlo. And I'm sure I'm not saying it with that lovely Italian accent that she has. She is a seasoned bilingual lifestyle journalist. She's the founder and chief editor of crunchytales.com, which is a popular first solely illustrated online magazine for sassy women over 50 on a mission to reframe midlife as a colorful journey. She focuses her work on inspirational content to empower women feeling stuck in the second act of their life, highlighting the bright side of growing older. We certainly heard that with Donna today. You know, I will have fun talking with Michaela. So be sure to join us for the live show next week, Monday, November 20th, and continue to embrace this time of your life with exploration, self-expression, and fulfillment. Thank you so much, Donna, for your time today and all of the wonderful gifts that you shared with us. My name is Wendy Green, and this has been Hey Boomer.